What is going on, trka? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about it. Yesterday we were saying let the dust settle. Let's see what happens. As always, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. If you want to buy or sell, you do what you want to do. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at. I'm going to show you where I think it sits right now. We'll talk about some of the filings and we'll look at the charts real quick. You know, a lot of people can look at the candlesticks at the end of the day and tell you this is what happened. Obviously, we can all read candlesticks at the end of the day, but it doesn't do us a whole lot of good when we're sitting here thinking, what's the decision? What should I do? Where are we sitting, and what do I need to be looking for throughout the day? So a little bit of maybe confidence in either direction, whether, you know, and again, I can't make the decision for you. You got to make your own decision, but I'll show you the levels that I'm looking at, what I want to see, and where we go from there. So with the filing, I read it like 3 times, trying to understand exactly what was going on. It looked like, so I think there was an S1 form that did not get filed correctly. So, and then the Series E's were repurchased. We saw the float size that could be increased. Is it increased or not? We don't really know yet. So not all of the dust is settled. I don't know if those shares were ever authorized to be put out there correctly. I'm not saying that they can't correct that and make everything right and be able to issue those shares. That's still a strong possibility that they can do that. But as of right now, it didn't look like they had the authorization. Maybe they just had to buy back those Series E's so that they did have the amount of shares to be available if and when that time would ever come that they needed to be able to authorize those warrants or whatever. So still a big issue, I'm sure. And if I was to give my opinion as to what exactly there is, 50% of you would probably agree and 50% of you would probably argue and tell me I'm wrong. And I really don't have concrete evidence either way. I think we will probably find out, whether it be today or next week. I think some clarity in that matter is going to come. But just keep in mind, if it did happen, it was already happening prior to, I believe, unless they're unloading some of those through all of this. But I think they were limited to a certain amount that they could even unload, if so, somewhere around 5% of their holdings. So it wouldn't be a full dilution if there was going to be, in my opinion. But again, we're going to find out. But I'll tell you what I'm looking at. We crashed all the way down. I'm a big fib person. If you're newer to the channel, I love fib lines. Everything's traded algorithmically most of the time. You know, sometimes you get that retail hype that comes in and it kind of throws a little bit of haywire into their system, but at the same time, those machines can just override and control. So we sat down here. This is Trading View. We don't get all the wicks in every last movement, but crashed perfectly to the 236. That's a nasty retracement, but that's a beautiful spot for a lot of times for stock to make some sort of reversal. Not saying it's going to be like mind-blowing reversal, but we know that a lot of times things like to stop there. They like to hang up there, maybe make a little bit of a reversal and see how it continues to move through that. So at that 236, around 30 cents, 30 and a half cents, I actually averaged down there. I'm like, it's sitting here. It's holding okay right now. I'm going to average myself down and see, because my average was a little high. I was trying to catch the falling knife, and the knife just kept falling, and that's part of the risk associated with trading. So I took on that risk, and I had to figure out what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to cut my losses or if I wanted to take one more stab at it and see if we can get some sort of nice bounce. A lot of times big moves down are followed by a decent move back up, especially if we see a nice support level. We talked about this safety net trend line down here. Look where we are right here in safety net trend line, which is also pretty much in line. Well, when we were talking about it back here with our fib, that's why the safety net trend line was down there, and it's working its way back up into there right now. 35.50 is where it currently sits as we're talking about it. 10:12 market time. So I want to see if this trend line will continue to hold as a support line and push us into the right direction as far as what we're looking for. So my next target's going to be about 43.5 cents from here if we can continue some upward momentum. From there, I'd be looking at 54 cents. So from 54 cents, that would be about to our 5.0 on the fib, and then the 618. If we can get to that golden pocket, that puts us somewhere back to about 64.5 cents. Now, all of these targets, you're going to have to make your own decision as to how it's moving. Is it acting as support? Is it acting as rejection? Do we even get there is the question. So be watching those levels closely to the upside. How is it moving? How do you like it? Does it look like we still have strength? Is the volume still there? Is everything looking okay in your eyes? How does the RSI look? Is it getting blown out, or is it oversold? Keep an eye on your RSIs to the downside. Watch this level very close, 30.5 cents. Now they could come down for another retest, and they could try to shake out or whatever they want to do. I would be watching very closely within a couple cents of that. If we lose that 236, things could get very ugly. But as long as that's holding, I'm okay with where I'm at. But again, you guys have to make your own decision as to what you think is the right decision to make. As of right now, we're not doing a whole lot, just bouncing around within a couple of cents. That's fine, right? I'm comfortable because we're above the 236 fib. So there's no reason to have the fear, I guess, as far as the way I'm looking at it, until it gets below whatever your confidence level is. If you're already scared, then that would have been your sign, right? Why are we always scared? We trade stocks daily. There's no reason to be afraid because you already have a plan before you ever got into it. If you ever find yourself taking screenshots because you're up so big, what's that mean? Well, that's probably a pretty good sign of what you should do. Before you get that pit in your stomach and you're down so low, well, that was probably a pretty good sign of what you should have done. But if you're here, it is what it is, right? You either waited too long or you're just getting in, and maybe you still have full confidence. But there's no reason to be fearful whenever we're in the stock market, because we always have a plan, whether that be protect our accounts to the downside, protect the capital. That's number one. And then number two, when you see some money, take your money. If you have nice gains, have a stop loss. Bump that stop loss up. Yes, I know sometimes they'll take it away from you, but at the same time, at least you exit the trade green. So I really like kind of the situation that we have right now. We have a decent technical setup along with the fundamentals of the good earnings that came out yesterday. So I want to see more so what big money wants to do with this move. And I was saying, again, if you can block out the drama that's going around, right? Who knows who's right? We're going to find out who's right with their theories, whether they are in the market, whether they aren't in the market, whether they could have been authorized or they couldn't have been authorized. It will all come to light in time. But again, it's just something that we'll watch for in the candlesticks as we go through the process. We'll see if we get a decent bounce. Sometimes those big moves down give you big moves back up. But again, from here on, there's no reason to be afraid in the stock market. There's no reason to have fear. Are you scared throughout your daily lives? Does everything scare you? No, not at all. You're probably not scared of many things unless you have a phobia. There's really not many times that you just are scared to do absolutely anything. You're scared to leave your house. You're scared of what somebody might say. Who cares what people say? It's really your trade. The second you get into it, it's your trade, how you want to navigate it. If you believed everybody that told you something, you would never know what to think. So just make a little bit of educated decision as far as how you're going to trade, how you're going to make your trade, where you want to get in, where you want to get out, what looks good, what doesn't look good. Right now, we're holding our trend line, our safety net trend line, and we're trying to get some strength. Looks like we're getting some bars up. Let's see. The RSI is currently sitting at 32 on the 5-minute, which to me is a little bit oversold. The 30-minute is sitting at 33, which is oversold. We're sitting at 30 on the 1 hour, oversold. We're sitting at 45, call it, on the 4 hour, which definitely needed to cool off. And on the daily, we were sitting right at 50. Now, 50 is usually my target to want to play something to the upside because that tells me that we have upside potential. Be watching your longer time frames. They're going to cool off if these shorter time frames do not turn around here pretty soon. So could it be a little bit of consolidation day, just letting those things cool off? It's a possibility that that could be the case, but being oversold, I would look for some things to hopefully heat up here because we had a nice cool off on the 4 hour and on the daily. Keep an eye on those. Whenever you see them 75, 80, 85, you know something's going to happen. At some point, it's going to break and crack. So anytime you see them get overheated like that, which they absolutely were yesterday whenever the whole drop began, it is what it is. The RSI and the fibs, they work. They just work. They're two nice tools to use together and just kind of make your decision whether you think that could be a support, right? Is it oversold sitting at a support, or is it overbought and you think it's going to become resistance at that point? Looking at the ortex, who's saying that some of the shares were returned, 67.53% live short interest of the free float and 20.16 million shares live short interest. So if there is a float change, these numbers are absolutely going to change. So far, we do not have any update as far as ortex goes with the float. So if we see a float change, obviously these numbers have to change. Keep that in mind. Cost to borrow averaged 287.38%. Utilization not maxed out. So that's what we're looking at. As far as today, the volume seems to be okay. The movement, I mean, hey, at least it's not falling any further right now, right? We have our safety net trend line. We have our fib line. Be watching those close and be watching them within a couple of cents. I think that's where you're going to probably be able to make your decision whether or not you want to be here. And like I said, I think things will come to light either today. Who is it? The guy from GNS, I think, has a meeting with the guy from trka. So maybe he'll enlighten us through Twitter. Maybe the company will enlighten us with what's going on. Or maybe somebody will dig up something, but like I said, the filings are very, very difficult to understand, and they didn't make a whole lot of sense because they kind of contradict themselves, which is why we have the drama that's going on right now. Because typically you should be able to read through there and be like, bang, I know what I'm looking for, I know the answer. But whenever we have contradicting filings, then everybody has a speculative point. Everybody has a hypothesis, and somebody's going to be right, but both sides in my eyes are still guessing right now as to what exactly went down and how it's going to go down. So let's say to be continued on that point, but I hope you guys have a good day in the markets, make some money. I will catch you in the next one. As always, stay golden, people, and may your accounts stay green.